so we come to Colossians 1, 9 to 14. Let me read through this once, and then we'll start making some observations. And so from the day we heard, we have not ceased to pray for you. Okay, so again, we're dealing with Paul and Timothy. They heard, they have not ceased to pray. Okay, interesting. It says from the day. From the day, or since the day. In the previous passage, we saw that since the day the gospel has come to the church, it is being fruitful and it is growing. Now we see that since the day, again, same phrase, that they heard, they have not ceased to pray. We have heard this idea of hearing in the previous passage. They were giving thanks, they were praying since they heard. And so we're coming back to that now. Okay, so that was the heart, that was the cause. Now here's the content. This is the prayer here. Asking, okay, what's being asked here? That we're dealing, when we say you, we're dealing with the church. Earlier it said that the saints, the faithful in Colossae, so that they would be filled with the knowledge of his will and all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so that they will be filled with the knowledge of his will and all spiritual wisdom and understanding. So, okay, keyword, we'll come back to that. So as to walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him, bearing fruit in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God, being strengthened with all power according to his glorious might, for all endurance and patience with joy, giving thanks to the Father who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of the saints in light. He has delivered us from the dominion of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. And so from the day we heard, since the day that Paul and Timothy heard, we have not ceased to pray. They have ceaselessly prayed for them. And what are they praying? They're asking that they may be filled with the knowledge of his will. So from the beginning, okay, they heard it from Epaphras. From the beginning, even though he is miles and miles away in prison, he hears this and he is giving thanks and he is praying for them. What is he praying? This is the point of their prayer. This is the content of the prayer, that they would be filled with the knowledge of his will. Okay, what does it mean to be filled? We hear about, let's say, filling of the Spirit. What does it mean? Does it mean to be just filled? Does it mean to be led by? Does it mean to be controlled by? Maybe it means to be changed by. Maybe it means that they are to be so filled and stuffed and saturated and permeated with the will of God that it completely changes everything about them. So what does it mean to be filled with the knowledge of his will? In all spiritual wisdom and understanding. Okay, this is not something that they can do naturally. This is something that they need God's help with. It is spiritual wisdom. It is heavenly wisdom and understanding. They are growing. They are being filled with the knowledge of God's will in all spiritual wisdom and understanding. So that's the prayer. And then we get to the purpose of the prayer. Okay, and we see that purpose statement when we get to the word so. Again, key connecting word. So that answers the why question. Why? So why should they be filled with the knowledge of God's will? Why? So that they would walk. Okay, so here we see a connection between the filling and the walking. Okay, one leads to the other. So then, is this simply head knowledge? Is this simply just academic, something mental, or is it something more? It indicates that this is the kind of knowledge that prepares for, that leads to the walking. Okay, that is the point of the prayer. This is the purpose of the prayer, that they would walk, that they would live, that they would do something. So the main prayer is to be filled with the knowledge. The main purpose is that they would walk, and the main picture here is the following. so that they would walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, honoring the Lord, right? With a heart of worship before the Lord, okay? And that seems to be, there's a connection between manner worthy and fully pleasing. And so here we see a list of various participles that seem to be connected here. Here there seems to be a list here that what is this? What is a picture of this walking? What does it look like? Number one, that they would bear fruit in every good work. Okay, didn't we see fruit in the previous passage? The gospel is bearing fruit and increasing, and just as it does all over the world, and just as it has been doing in the church, the prayer here that they would continue to bear fruit, number one. Number two, they would increase in the knowledge of God. Okay, he has been praying that they would be filled, and so that they would walk, so that they would continue to be filled, so that they would continue to grow in that knowledge. There's something that seems ongoing here, that they would increase, they would bear fruit, that they would be strengthened with all power according to his glorious might, for all endurance and patience with joy, giving thanks to the Father. And so here we see that something is happening when they are filled with the knowledge of the will that leads them to good works. Okay? Consider that. Think about that. Meditate on that. They are then growing in the knowledge of God. This seems to be an urgent need for us, is it not? There's something here that's quite significant. There's something here that's quite exciting. This increasing in the knowledge of God changes them so much that it causes them to walk differently in a way that is fully pleasing to God. Not only are they bearing fruit, not only are they increasing in that knowledge, but they are being strengthened. Okay? But look at that. We see the word strengthen, we see the word power, we see glorious might. What's the connection? Maybe that's a good idea for a word study to consider. What are the differences and distinctions here? What does it mean? Okay. Also, keep in mind here that there are verbs. Okay, bearing, increasing, being strengthened. Okay, is that an active verb? Is that a passive verb? Who's doing the action? Are they growing in strength, or it seems that something's happening to them? Somebody is strengthening them. They are simply being strengthened. That's something else to consider. They are being strengthened so that they would have great endurance. What does it mean to endure? So that they would have grit, so that they would have resilience, so that no matter what problems or disappointments, they would have the stick-to-itiveness. They would stick to it. They would not quit. They would have patience and long suffering. Here it says with joy, that they would do all this with joy. Now, when we compare different translations, RSV, King James, but also in ESV, it says that it's connected with this endurance and patience. But when you compare this with the NIV, it seems to connect joy with thanksgiving. Okay, consider that. Which one do you think it is? Is it significant? Where does that joy connect with? Is it with endurance, or is it with thanksgiving? And so just as they were giving thanks, now they are praying that this people would be a people of thanksgiving, filled with this joyful endurance. And it seems that all of this is somehow connected to this section here. Consider the tense of the verb. It's past tense, it's aorist, as it's done. This seems to be the basis. So the point of the prayer is that they would be filled, right? The purpose of the prayer is so that they would walk. What does it look like to walk? What is a picture of that walking? Bearing fruit, increasing, being strengthened, giving thanks. But all of that seems to be based on this. What's the connection here? We see that they have been qualified to share in the inheritance. They have been delivered. Again, it's done. Delivered from the domain of darkness. Okay, so now we see the differences here. We see that no longer are they in the domain of darkness. They are transferred into the kingdom. Okay, cause and effect. He is the one who is doing this deliverance, and the effect on the people is that they are transferred to a different kingdom, to the beloved Son. Here we see that they have redemption. Here we see that they have forgiveness. So it's almost that this is the basis. So maybe we can say that it is because of this gospel. Maybe this is a fleshing out of that gospel, grace, word of truth that the previous passage was talking about? Could it be that this is the basis? So because they have been qualified and delivered, redeemed and forgiven, maybe that is what enables them to walk. Again, just raising some observations, raising some questions to consider at a further time when we deal with interpretation. It says qualified here. The Message paraphrase is just a paraphrase. It's not a translation, but it's helpful to kind of read and consider. The Message says, who makes us strong enough to take part in everything bright and beautiful that he has for us. So he has qualified us. That's not from us. That's something that he has done. He has delivered us. Okay. Here we see a picture. Okay. Consider that. He has rescued us. He has delivered us. What does that picture imply? What comes to mind when you think about that? Maybe you think of like a military scene, maybe a SWAT team coming for a rescue operation. What comes to mind? Consider that. Think about that. Note the contrast here. He says, not this, but this. You are no longer in darkness. You have been transferred already. Again, if it is past tense, this is something that is done. This is where they are living now. They have been redeemed. They have been purchased. They have been forgiven. So again, this would be a good opportunity to do some further study on these participles, on these gospel points and how they are related to this prayer. This is the prayer, that they would be filled with the knowledge of God's will. Why? So that they can walk in a way that is worthy of God, fully pleasing. What does that walk look like? We have seen these 4 points, and it seems that somehow it's all connected to the gospel, all connected, all based from, all flowing from. In light of who they are, this is what they are called to be and to do. And if this is a prayer by Paul for the church, this might be a good prayer for us, for our lives and those around us as well.